Chairman, you can start the meeting.
Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of Cabinet. Welcome also to those members of the public and press who continue to join us via the live stream to YouTube. During the live broadcast, members and officers are asked to please ensure that your mobile phones are placed in silent mode and that microphones are switched off whilst not in use. May I also make a request that members speak directly into the microphone so that they can actually be heard on the YouTube. Thank you very much. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence. Member services?
Thank you. We've had no apologies.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 2, previous minutes. And we're being asked to approve the public minutes, which are on pages 3 to 4 of the agenda pack, as a correct record of the Cabinet meeting which took place on the 15th of September 2025. May I ask any member who does not agree with the public minutes to indicate that now? I see no one indicating, therefore we will approve those minutes as a correct record. They are now agreed and I shall sign them. Thank you, Carol. Right, agenda item 3, there are no urgent items. Agenda item 4, interests. Agenda item 4 is to receive any declarations of interest under the Local Code of Conduct or any interest under the Code of Conduct on planning matters in respect of any items to be discussed at this meeting. If you have anything to declare, would you please inform the meeting? I will start by making a declaration under agenda item 8, and that is that I'm a member of the Wisbech Town Board, as well as being leader of the council, which is the accountable body for the Wisbech Town Board. I feel that creates too much of a potential conflict of interest, so I shall not participate in agenda item 8. I shall not speak on it, I shall not vote on it, and I shall hand the chair over to the Councillor French to be able to chair that part of the meeting. Are there any other matters, items of declarations of interest that anyone wishes to raise, please? No? Oh, Councillor Hoy.
Yeah, on the same item, I'm not entirely convinced, but I can't be bothered to argue, so I won't speak or vote.
Sorry, do you say you will not be voting on this subject?
Oh, or speaking, I've got nothing to add, so.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, Councillor Tierney.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So also on agenda item 8, I am on the Wisbech Town Board, but I was appointed to the Wisbech Town Board by Fenland District Council. So because I am the council's representative on the board, I will be speaking on the item if there's anything to say or any questions to answer or any discussion to engage in. And I will also be voting because I do believe that although I have already voted once on this, if new information were raised today or strong arguments were made, my mind is open enough to reverse my position. So I am going to listen carefully and then I will be voting. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Warwick.
So I would like to declare an interest on agenda item number 8. I'm also on the town board and I will not be voting or speaking on the agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? No one else? Good. So those declarations of interest are duly recorded. Agenda item 5 is Fenland Inspire Wisbech Park Orchard. And it's a report regarding the removal of the orchard in Wisbech Park, which can be found on pages 5 to 8 of our agenda pack. Councillor Mrs. French, would you please propose the report?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to propose this. I don't intend to speak on it, but I do have a slight alteration under 3.4. I would like to alter the recommendations of 3.4 slightly if Cabinet is in agreement. The CP Learning Trust has been in contact with officers and asked if they can work with the Council to attempt to transplant the trees to their Fenland Orchard project in Lynn Road, Wisbech. This seems like an ideal way of perhaps preserving some of the trees as well as enhancing the orchards projects. That being the case, I would like the recommendations in paragraph 3.4 is amended to read: the Cabinet instructs officers to work with the CP Learning Trust to remove the orchard within Wisbech Park due to the increasing antisocial behaviour taking place and to attempt to transplant the fruit trees to the Fenland Orchard project with any cost to the council kept within the budget highlighted in paragraph 4.6.
Thank you very much. Does Democratic Services have that amendment? Good, thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Mrs. French. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor, are you seconding or?
Well, we're not allowed to ask a question until it's been seconded, are we?
Oh, we need
Just
to
got a
second
question
it.
on that
We
amendment.
second it and then we get to the debate. Seconded by Councillor Christie. Councillor Miss Hoy.
Yeah, it was just obviously the first I'm hearing of Councillor French's amendment, and I just wondered, is there a time frame? Because I don't disagree with it. I think it'd be good, and that was what was originally suggested. But then officers said that they thought that wasn't possible. So obviously it's now reverted back to the original plan, and I'm just concerned. It needs to be done this year. I wouldn't want us to put the amendment in and then it's not done this year, and then we're working with them next year and the year after and the year after. I think we perhaps need to include in the amendment that it's to be done by the end of this year, really.
Councillor Mrs. French.
Yes, I did send the email to you this morning, Councillor Hoy, to give you a heads up on it. All Cabinet members did receive it. Yes, I'm more than happy to work with officers to put a specific date on it. We could say by the end of January. I think it's too near Christmas to do it beforehand. So if you're happy, we can do it by the end of January or before the end of January.
Would member services note that as an amendment for the work done by the end of January, which has been proposed by the proposer of the agenda item? Any other comments from any other members? No other comments. Then I will move to a vote on the motion as amended by Councillor French herself, and then as further amended by Councillor French. Those in favour, please show. That's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. We now move on to agenda item 7, which is the acceptance of I'm sorry, I was so keen to get to agenda item 7 for reasons we'll come to in agenda item 7 that I forgot about agenda item 6. Move to agenda item 6, the extension of the Norfolk Street Public Spaces Protection Order, which is to be found on pages 9 to 36 of our agenda pack. This concerns the extension of the Norfolk Street Public Spaces Protection Order, the PSPO. Councillor Walbrook, would you be kind enough to propose this, please?
I can indeed. So there's a comprehensive report, but just to give you a bit of background. So in 2023, Fenland District Council introduced a Public Spaces Protection Order, which is the PSPO, to prevent access down a passageway between Norfolk Street and West Street in Wisbech. This was introduced to deal with antisocial behaviour that was occurring down there, namely litter, urination, defecation, drugs, drink and sexual activity. PSPOs can be made for a maximum of 3 years and they must be reviewed before the renewal. The PSPO expires in July next year. As part of the possible renewal, the Community Safety Team have carried out a consultation with public and key stakeholders, as well as reviewing data to determine whether the PSPO should be extended for a further 3 years. The report above, which you've all got in your thing, outlines the issues, the consultation process and outcomes. It is proposed that the PSPO be extended for a further 3 years.
Thank you very much. May I have a second on this? Councillor Mafadon, thank you. Open the matter up for debate. Does anyone wish to say anything? Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to be supporting the motion, but I do just want to underline something I have said before in regards to PSPOs, which is I think they're broadly pretty useless. I don't think they generally do what they say they're going to do on the tin, or at least not as much as they claim. And sadly, Norfolk Street still is suffering from a lot of the same problems that it was suffering from before we began this. Now, I want to support the police and do the things the police said, and I think Councillor Warwick makes a great case for that, and so I will be supporting it because I don't want to be seen to be being negative. But I would really encourage the police to think strongly about how they use their resources and to be more visible and do more footwork, because I think that would do more to solve our problems than endless PSPOs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tierney. Does anyone else? Councillor Mrs. Laws.
Thank you, Chair. I support exactly what Councillor Tierney has said, but I think the valuable point is if we've got this in place already, it's very difficult to withdraw this, and therefore I will be supporting it.
Thank you. Any other comments from anyone? No, then unless Councillor Walbrook needs to... Oh, you'd like to respond? Good.
Oh, I was just going to sit there and say, because this is very specific, it is a closing of an alleyway, so it's 100% effective on this case. because it's closed. So therefore the activities can't take place down there. So I completely appreciate everybody's opinion, but on this occasion it is spot on. It does exactly what it's supposed to do.
It certainly achieves the objective of stopping any antisocial behaviour in that particular location. It doesn't necessarily stop antisocial behaviour being displaced to somewhere else. But nevertheless, I think that we all understand what's being achieved here. Good. I'll move to the vote then. Those in favour, please show. And that's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed, members. We can now move on to agenda item 7 that I was so keen to get to before. And the reason I was so keen to get to it before is it concerns the award of £1.5 million of Pride in Place impact funding to Fenland District Council. And this report can be found on pages 37 to 46 of the agenda pack. There are specific rules about Pride in Place impact funding and how it may be spent. There's also a very specific rule that it must be spent no later than the 31st of March 2027, which gives us quite a tight timescale as far as that's concerned. But the purpose of this agenda item is for us formally to accept the funding of 1.5 million. There is a requirement that a memorandum of understanding has to be signed by our Section 151 officer and accepted and returned to government no later than today. So that's the reason that it is somewhat urgent that we do agree this, but I'd be very surprised if too many of you are going to object to us getting £1.5 million, even with the restrictions that there are in terms of time and in terms of scope as to how it may be spent. So I'm formally proposing it. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mrs. French, thank you. Any comments or questions from anyone? Councillor Tierney.
Sorry for speaking so much today, Chairman. When we get a chunk of money like this, there's a thing that seems to always happen, and I'm going to try and speak on it to stop it happening, but nonetheless it still will. And that is that the first thing people say is, whatever we end up spending this on, and I don't know exactly what projects it will end up being spent on, but people will then say, why didn't you fix the potholes? Or whatever their local cause of concern is, they'll say, why you didn't. And I think it's quite important in any communications about this and to the press that we make clear what the limitations are so that people understand that we can't go and do the county council's work and fix the potholes any more than we can go and put more police on the beat and do the police's job, because that's not our role and that's not within the scope of what the money's for. So I'd just like to make sure that we are clear when we talk about this in the future, that we are quite limited in what we can do with it and we're going to do the best we can. Thank you.
That's a very helpful intervention, Councillor Tierney. Thank you very much indeed. Any other comments from anyone? Oh, Councillor Mrs. French.
Thank you. Yes, Chairman, I welcome this. It's great to actually get some money from the government, but I would like, obviously, an early opportunity for members to get together how we're going to actually spend this money.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from anyone? Good, then I move to a vote. Those in favour of accepting £1.5 million? And that, unsurprisingly, is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed, members. We now move to agenda item 8, and I hand the chair over to Councillor Mrs. French.
Thank you. Agenda item 8 concerns the Neighbourhood Regeneration Plan for Wisbech, which can be found at pages 47 to 192 of the agenda pack. Can I have a proposer for this report? Councillor Seaton, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Yep. Thank you, Councillor Christie. This item is now open for discussion. Councillor Tierney, did you want to speak?
Only to say that I have obviously been a member of the board appointed by this council, and I've felt the board has deliberated well. I think that the projects are moving forwards comfortably, and so far up to this point I have been happy and have in fact voted elsewhere on this exact issue that we're here today to discuss. But I'm interested in hearing other people's views, any new information or any contrary views, and I am retaining an open mind. Thank you.
Thank you. The item is now open for discussion. Does anybody else want to speak on the item? Councillor Cant.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome this update on the regeneration plan for Wisbech, the plan for neighbourhoods. I wanted to draw this council's attention to the Combined Authorities local growth plan, which has just been passed, and that included for Wisbech the March to Wisbech railway element, which is great news, and also the opportunity for investment into the Wisbech area. It was great to see this recognised in the local Combined Authority local growth plan. In the paper in front of us, the board that is mentioned is recognised by the government as truly representing and being useful for representing the views of Wisbech people. And I suggest we get as early engagement as we can with the combined authority to help them to fine-tune any investment plans they may have for this area in the future by using what is a set-up body rather than allowing double bureaucracy and the creation of any new bodies that may wish to seek an impact. So just bring that to your attention and thoroughly endorse what's in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Count. Any other comments? There are no further speakers there for the recommendations set out on pages 48 of the report, and ask Cabinet to endorse the Wisbech Town Board Pride in Place Regeneration Plan for submission to the Government by the 28th of November 2025. Delegate authority to the High Street Project Manager in consultation with the portfolio holder based upon recommendations of the Town Board to make any necessary amendments to the plan prior to the submission, should local circumstances or ongoing consultations outcome change. Authorise officers to enter into all relevant legal and financial arrangements to bring the plan into effect, subject to future Cabinet officers' approval as required. Are these agreed? Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. Hand back to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Mrs. Wrench. Now move to agenda item 9, and this concerns a Finland Inspire project, which is the redevelopment of the Manor Leisure Centre, and the detailed report for this can be found on pages 193 to 234 of the agenda pack. Councillor Count, would you please be kind enough to propose this report?
Thank you, Chair. In proposing this report, I'll apologise in advance. I have a rather lengthy introduction, but I was reminded today that this is actually the largest single project that FDC has actually ever committed itself to, or in the process of committing itself to. So therefore, I think it's worthy of trying to get a few details out there into the public domain. First of all, I'd like to thank the officers and the former portfolio holder for getting to this stage, and Sport England, community, the stakeholders, members of the public for engaging and their comments and helpful comments during the engagement process. I'll briefly describe how we got to where we are today and what I'm specifically asking Cabinet for, and then outlining next steps. The project to date has transitioned from work deemed necessary on the current buildings into considering a much more ambitious improvement, taking the two older disjointed buildings and creating one more modern, efficient sports centre. Cabinet is already aware of this and has approved funding for the rebus stages 3 and 4 to move this project forward. Today's paper updates Cabinet on changes made to the proposal to reflect substantial and mainly positive feedback, fully detailed in the report. Those changes have increased the prospective budget that will be needed, but request to approve that budget is not for today. That will come back for a decision around June, July of 2026. What Cabinet is being asked to reflect on today is the new financial impact on FDC, which could lead to questions as to whether we should or should not agree to some or all of the changes at this stage, by asking to reduce overall projected costs as identified in section 11.1. I think it is worth me highlighting those options at this stage and the most significant ones. Cabinet previously asked whether it's possible to improve the rifle range, the addition of a 10-metre air rifle range and widening the building, and improving disabled access, making it greatly more enhanced, has only increased costs from 750,000 to 950,000. I regard this as extremely good value. The paddle courts have an incredibly fast payback period, and whilst adding up to 450,000 to costs at the outset, the fast payback period means that they will have a net positive overall impact on costs. We heard a compelling local argument for the addition of a commercial kitchen, which could increase social event bookings, and that in itself added £800,000. But there is substantial desire and evidence that this could enable greater use of the social area. Cabinet could also consider whether to lower the height in the badminton court area, and that would result in the stopping of badminton there. Not only does that diminish what residents want, I'm not fully satisfied that we could call it a sports centre when you could not operate a game of badminton in there. There's been a plethora of more minor but well-judged amendments during the engagement process, particularly from Sports England, local members and members of the public, things like steps into the pool, grasscrete access around to the back and the standing area leading to a kitchen and bar, movement of doors, storage spaces, ensuring wiring can enable external lighting at a later date if desired. And there are too many for me to list for you today, but I would say that it was a very good engagement process with a lot of facts taken on by the project team. My suggestion is that Cabinet does not limit the aspirations at this stage, but should resist allowing future additions. If agreed with what's in front of you today, this would provide the necessary crystallisation of the actual building structure, the external, to fully move forward until the next stage. Those future stages will work primarily on costing and finalising the internal elements, changes, and some further details as described in 10.1, 10.7. Further responses to the engagement process are covered in 8, such as quite a bit of detail on the private lockable changing rooms, which includes some potential changes for the future. I want to draw your attention to the range of improvements suggested by Sports England, now incorporated, which we expect to recover by way of grant. Although adding a large element of cost to the build, we do expect that to be covered by way of grant. Costings now also include an element for inflation and the contingency budget. The new projected impact on FDC finances is covered in section 12.8. In closing and moving over to questions, I wish to thank those that have supported or engaged, and despite the interruption of PERDA, a significant amount of input has been heard and reflected upon. I ask you all to support the recommendations and we'll try to answer any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Campson. I'm happy to second this from the Chair. I'll now open the item up for debate and discussion. Councillor Mrs. French. My apologies, Councillor Mrs. Laws.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, as a Whittlesea councillor, I've had a lot of feedback, and I think the officers have done extremely well trying to avoid PERDA and go round a consultation. There's been a lot involved this time. What I would say is the Manor Leisure Centre is used and well used, and it really is in a state of disrepair and it's deteriorating. It's an old building. We have growing population and development in Whittlesea. In fact, we've got the highest number of properties being built out. We need to offer facilities, and in particular sports facilities across the range for the people moving into our market town. I'd also like to add that I think in particular the cafe area, we should promote. It's worked very successfully at Wisbeach, the leisure centre there. It's very good when people have finished swimming or Healthy Hearts to actually sit down in that area, and it's a social space. And also to have the air rifles in the rifle range incorporated. Again, I think that will be welcomed and there will be more people signing up to the rifle range. Lastly, why have an area in a leisure centre that is not being fully utilised? And I'm pleased to see that we now have a catering kitchen suggested with vehicular access for catering businesses and obviously a full waste disposal area, which is excellent. I think we're missing a trick here because in Whittlesea itself, there's only one larger or around the same seating area in Whittlesea for the number this could hold. And this might be controversial. I think our present arrangement is not promoting an events facility, which for weddings, parties, dinner dances, we need that in Whittlesea, but we need a proper catering kitchen as well. So, and on looking at this, I think this is so positive for Whittlesea, and I hope members actually do support it. And I thank the portfolio holder, present and past, and also the officers for working so hard to bring this forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Laws. Councillor Count, do you want to respond to any of those points? No. Okay, fine. Any other comments from anyone? Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been following some of the discussion about this on the Whittlesea social media boards, and I just wanted to say that I think it's very refreshing that councillors and local people have been engaging with one another so positively. And I know there are some differences of opinion on some aspects of this, but the fact that everyone's discussing it and talking about it is the way these things should be done. So I'm really pleased to see that Whittlesea is hopefully going to get exactly what they want in the long run. I'm pleased to see all the engagement that's going on, and I think this is just a good sign going forwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from anyone? If not, then I'll say a few words if I may. I do join Councillor Count and Councillor Mrs Laws in congratulating all those who've got this project to this state now, both the portfolio holder, the previous portfolio holder, and the officers. And a lot of hard work has gone into getting it to where we are now. There's also, as Councillor Tierney said, has been a lot of, I believe, largely healthy debate about what should or should not be included within this project. And this project now is very, very different from how it first appeared when it first came onto our radar. So we've made a lot of changes based on feedback that we've had from the community, which I think is really important and really useful. I think that Councillor Tierney talked about what has been said on Whittlesea social media. And I think there's been one bit of potential misunderstanding, which I will invite Councillor Kant to respond to. And that is the suggestion that there are going to be or could be mixed gender changing rooms. And that is not and never has been the suggestion. We are talking about private and secure lockable changing rooms, but I'll invite Councillor Count to respond to that particular point. Sport England have made some design improvements, they've suggested them, which we are including within this proposal. But if Sport England do not, I'll just let the officer, just for the benefit of the officer primarily on this one, if Sport England do not come up with the funding that they potentially are able to, which is £2 million in this case, then we have to look at these design improvements either not taking place at all or being done only in part. However, what this now does is it puts a line in the sand so far as what this project is going to be. There can be some minor, relatively minor changes, but this will stop mission creep taking place. It'll stop us having large-scale additional specifications, because one of the big problems with projects like this in local government, and even worse in national government, is that once a decision is made, then someone 5 months down the line says, oh, can't we add this? And then someone says, can't we add that? And it gets out of control. The idea behind what we're deciding here is we're going to keep it in control, and this is the limit of what we're going to do, certainly in terms of the footprint, and to a very substantial extent in terms of what is incorporated within the centre. That's not to say there can't be minor changes, minor improvements as we go through, but this basically draws a line in the sand as to what it is that we will have. So those are my comments, and I'd welcome giving Councillor Count the opportunity to respond, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Hoy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start at the very back and address the subject that's dominated some of the social media in Whittlesea, to confirm that there is no proposal for any mixed changing rooms. They are all private changing rooms. There's a big selection of private changing rooms. There will be for individuals, So one person, one changing room. There'll be some at two-person size. This might be, for example, a father with an 8-year-old son or daughter, or a younger daughter. And then there are larger ones for family spaces. There's also the inclusion of 2 larger changing room facilities, such as when a school arrives. But all of these are lockable and secure. So there's no mixed changing envisaged and never has been. Having said that, the area outside the changing, some people have said that there's potential there, and we welcome that input. And what the team are now doing is looking at whether there's any possibility at all of increasing the visibility from the pool side of that area. We have taken on board all the feedback on this area and just trying to see how we can fine-tune any extra elements, such as the possibility of such as the possibility of an all-gender private changing room, and all of these are covered in 8.13, quite a long list there. I would say that the current proposals, which we've now got to, I've matched the Sport England design specification, which they have used across the whole of the country in recent years. They also match what we currently use at the Hudson and the George Campbell, so in a very successful way, and we're quite confident about them. So yes, just to deal with that, there are no there are no mixed changing rooms. They're all private lockable cubicles. In terms of engagement, I thank Councillor Tierney for bringing us to that and welcome his help with us in the future. I've asked for further engagement, so we're going to set up a dedicated web page on the FDC website, which will be populated as and when we have further information. I've asked if it's possible, which I don't have the answer to yet, it's a recent question. If people submit an email address, then we could automatically update them as and when we put in new information, as opposed to them having to notice us drawing it to their attention by way of a press release. And I think that would be a more modern and better way of keeping the public updated. I thank Councillor D. Laws for her comments today, her support, and actually drawing a large deal of attention to the need for a commercial catering kitchen, which we've now included. You said, word for word, you think we're missing an opportunity. I hope what we were talking about is we may have missed an opportunity if we hadn't have listened. But we have listened and delighted to incorporate that. And the second part of your comments were about whether we are well set up to be dealing with the social side as well as the sports side at the moment. And I can confirm at the moment we're looking to see whether it's better to enhance that with more of a professional engagement body, professional body to partner up with through the Leisure Centre, for somebody who's more specialised in these commercial social ways of approaching things. Always willing to listen to any more engagement, but as Councillor Bowden, the Chair, quite rightly pointed, today is about locking in the footprint and giving us something to move forward. Minor changes could come on in the future on the interiors. We shall see, but let's lock in the footprint today, and then next year we'll come back with a full cost that Cabinet Council will be able to decide whether to proceed at that stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Count. Councillor Ms Hoy.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously I'm very, very well aware that this isn't my town, and so I please don't think I'm being nosy. These comments are being made to try and help you in the future as an independent observer to all the comments that have been made. So I think this is an absolutely amazing facility for Whittlesea. I know all the Whittlesea councillors have been pushing really, really hard for this, so I'm glad that this is finally happening. Obviously I was at the manor for the election count a little while ago, and I have to say it does look in a very sorry state, so it is very well needed. So obviously I've been following the comments about the changing rooms as well. I think it didn't help that obviously people were saying mixed gender and making it sound like everyone kind of got changed together, and I don't think we were clear enough about the private cubicles, which I don't think helped. I think we could have been clearer, but I do think we should listen to what the concerns are, because I think just by saying this kind of changing village and similar to the Hudson, I don't think we'll go enough of the way to please people. Now, don't get me wrong, you're never going to please everybody, because you could literally build the most perfect swimming pool in the world and there would still be someone that said there was X or Y thing wrong with it. But I think at the Hudson, and a few people that I've been speaking to that live in Whittlesea that aren't councillors or ex-councillors, they're just completely not really political. One thing people don't like is obviously when you've had your swim and then you're getting out, you're coming to have a shower and you're walking around with, so if you're a female and you're walking around with males and they're having the shower because they've got communal showers at the Hudson, and some people feel very uncomfortable. Now, I personally don't care because I sort of turn my back to the wall and just quickly get on and have a wash, but other people don't feel as comfortable as I am and do feel less confident. So I think that's something to be mindful of. And I know at the Hudson there was an incident of people taking photos under the changing doors, and so they've had a notice put up to say no cameras in the changing rooms. And so I think that's voyeurism is a real concern I've seen online people have had, and I think, and I don't mean this to sound sexist, but I think perhaps females maybe are more worried about this than males. I don't know. I don't want to maybe generalise, but it has been females that have mentioned it to me. And so, I mean, I appreciate perhaps you can't have the changing room right to the floor because perhaps you wouldn't be able to clean it, but I don't know if it's possible to have it perhaps a little bit lower than the Hudson ones or a little bit higher to potentially stop people reaching over and taking photos or something, because I just think if you do nothing to address the concerns, I think you're just going to have lots of people continuing to argue about this for years. But I also appreciate you can't perhaps go all of the way to help their concerns, but it might be just worth having a look. As Councillor Count said, there are kind of those minute details that can be looked at in the future. Is there some kind of compromise or something? Just because I think that's where, from what I've heard, and as kind of an independent observer, what people's worries are. And it does tend to be females more than males. I don't mean that, if there are males that are concerned, I'm not trying to not represent you, but obviously it's just females I've heard from so far.
Thank you, Councillor Missoy. I'll come to Councillor Mrs Laws first and then come back to Councillor Count who wishes to make further comment. Councillor Mrs Laws.
Thank you, Chair. Completely take on board what Councillor Hoy is saying, and obviously we will take on board any comments that are made. But personally, how the changing rooms are laid out at the moment, I think we're in more of a danger. And that's been my experience. Hence, I've got to be honest, I don't use the facility anymore now. But I think the other thing is you've got to be careful about mothers taking over 8 years old children into the ladies' area, and then you're leaving young boys vulnerable if they have to go into the male area by themselves. It's a very difficult and complex subject, I think, and we need to take on board the comments that have been put forward. But one of the things as well, and this will sound like a criticism to the cleaners that we have at the moment, but the cleaners are mainly female. They have to wait for the men to finish a session in the evening, and it's late, and I think in honesty it gets a quick clean and that's it. With the present sort of arrangement or the plan, you could close off half of the changing rooms and actually give it top to toe cleanliness and then reopen it. I mean, I'm trying to think of all aspects as well, but I think that's one of the positive aspects. In general, I agree with you. Most of the comments have been made around the changing room facilities. I've heard some very, very positive comments back, in particular opening the cafe area with windows and possibly using the same contractor and arrangement that they have at Wisbeach for that cafeteria area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Laws. Councillor Count, would you care to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Very much endorse what Councillor Laws has said about the cleanliness element. At present, probably the highest comment that came back from the engagement was the current state of the Manor Leisure Centre in terms of cleanliness and facilities. One of the drawbacks, as drawn out by Councillor Laws, was the difficulty in operating the cleanliness that there is now whereas the new sort of cloakroom area will enable that lockdown where you can thoroughly deep clean one area without waiting for the entire premises to be empty. So that will be very helpful in that and works well elsewhere. I'd also like to say that having had some experience with the March High Street project, really well led, chaired by Councillor Jan French, the one thing we know for certain is you will never please everybody. So we know there that we have a huge amount of people in endorsement that we've done a very good job, but we also know that you cannot please everybody. And in that respect, I want to just focus on the engagement process. The engagement process did tell us that the vast majority of people that wanted to see change at the first of all, they did want to see change at the Manor Leisure Centre, but what they largely focused on was the cleanliness and the facilities. And in fact, if you look at a checklist of what they wanted out of this, we're hitting it nail upon nail, 100% right. And it's only really at the very last element that we came across this item of the doubt about what is going on with the changing room areas. Now, we're trying to address that as best as possible, and I do take on board that whatever my views on how good the Hudson Centre or the George Campbell Centre is, if people have different views, we've got to listen to them, respect them, and see what can be done. Now, a couple of areas I want to draw particular attention to is in 8.13, where because of the feedback, we know that if you get examples of voyeurism, for example, this is much less likely the more people that there are able to oversee a facility. Right? It happens when somebody thinks, I can get away with it, I'm on my own, and somebody's in a cubicle. So the more people that can see that are in that larger area, the less likely an individual is to take advantage. And with that, we're considering whether it's possible to actually open up a way of looking in from the pool side to the non-changing element, which would help prevent that. So that's come directly as a result of this feedback. In terms of the showers, their private cubicle showers are available. In terms of the cubicle height, there is a response here that these will match Sport England guidance. But I'm going to ask officers to re-examine the actual detail of that, whether it's a strict criteria, whether there's a reason for that, whether it can be adjusted at all, whether it's a safety thing. My impression of toilet and cubicle doors in the past was there was over and under in case people locked themselves in. It was to do with that. I have no idea. This is not my area of expertise. But because of the comments made, I think it's worth revisiting that question and seeing where that leads us. So I'll ask them to do that. I think I've pretty much covered everything. The only thing I would like to add in closing, I mentioned at the start that this was the largest project that FDC has undertaken. I'd like to also point out it is an extremely complex project, because we're trying to keep as many functions running while we dismantle one building, move past into the other building, shut down another part, and then rebuild a new one. It is extremely complex. To get it to this stage, I've paid thanks already. I want to highlight the work put in to date by the officer Phil Hughes, who's leading on this, and it really is taking up a lot of time and energy, and it will continue to do so because it is a very, very complex project. I welcome the comments today and hope that we'll get support on the vote. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Count. Anyone else have any comment they would like to make? Oh, Councillor Tierney.
Yeah, I'm just going to make one more. I think I really genuinely believe that you would solve all your problems if the barriers between cubicles were floor to ceiling. I really do believe every worry is solved by that. And I don't know those of you who've travelled abroad, if you go somewhere like America, they have great big spaces at the bottom and then great big spaces at the top, and even the sides of the doors have gaps that you can see in. And Americans are always surprised when they come here and they see that we don't do things the same way. I would double down on that thing that we do better, and I would say there's no danger of people locking themselves in because these cubicles are not made of bomb-proof materials. They're very easy to open if you need to, but they're secure enough when they're just being locked for public use. And I would say that floor to ceiling makes everyone feel safer, prevents any danger of any voyeurism or anything else, and also makes it easy to clean because people are locked in when they're getting changed anyway, so a cleaner can come in and clean around the outside and perhaps just leave one cubicle for later. So I think that's a good solution personally.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Any other comments from anyone? No. Councillor Count.
Yes, thank you for that comment, Councillor Tierney. As I said, I've asked that to be reopened, that discussion. I have no particular views on the subject. As I say, I'm a layperson on this. So I will go back, I will ask the team why it's deemed necessary. I'll report back by email. That decision on its own will not affect what we're asking today. We're locking in the floor print. But I'm happy to report back on it with a full answer on that one, which I've agreed to reopen. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Count. Fine, we will now move to a vote, or rather a series of votes. It's a big project that we're talking about here. It's a big agenda item, so I will take this in parts to make sure that we have things properly recorded. We're first of all being asked to note the report, to note the progress of this important community project, and to note the significant financial situation that the Council faces, and to pay close attention to the financial assessment section of this report in section 12.1. Those willing so to note, please show. And that's agreed unanimously. We're then asked to note and consider, and I would suggest but reject, the potential cost mitigation measures that could have been taken to reduce the overall project costs as identified in section 11, and that is to remove the paddle courts, or to remove the rifle range, or make it smaller, or to reduce or remove the kitchen and event space. I think Councillor Count has explained why they should stay in. So the proposal before you is to note, and having considered, to reject the potential cost mitigation measures in section 11. Those in favour, please show. That's agreed unanimously. Thank you. We're then asked to discuss and approve the attached footprint in order that the substantive elements of the footprint remain fixed, allowing the project to progress smoothly through REBA stages 3 and 4 and the planning process. Those in favour of that, please show. Thank you, and that fixes the footprint. And finally, we're asked to note that the Council is working with Sport England to secure supportive funding that will offset design improvements required by Sport England that have enhanced initial designs. And on the understanding that if we don't get the money, those changes won't take place. Those in favour, please show. And that's agreed unanimously as well. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you for the debate. It's been very helpful, very useful. Agenda item 10 is a Wisbech High Street update, which can be found on pages 235 to 236 of the agenda pack. Councillor Seaton, would you please propose the report?
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to report that since the Cabinet paper was written, there has been positive progress. The building is now completed. The new door that had to be ordered because building control identified it had the wrong lock on it has now been delivered and fitted. And in fact, the building is now complete with only a building control inspection and certification required. This inspection is expected to take place in the next 2 weeks, with a practical completion handover meeting and FDC inspection now scheduled for Thursday the 20th of November. At this point, the Council will then take possession of the building. I would have to say, though, that it's out of our control. Building control will eventually let us have, hopefully, the certification. But until they do, we are waiting on them to give that okay. The practical completion rests on building control certification, and should the inspection reveal outstanding faults or issues, then the practical completion meeting will be cancelled and rescheduled for December, which I hope will not happen. A completion ceremony cannot be booked until building control actually give us that certification. Assuming all is well, on the 20th of November, a date will be arranged as soon as possible after Fenland District Council takes possession of the building. On 1112 High Street, the Council's appointed architects have now been commissioned and are working on the revised design for the new building. The procurement pack and taking the new design through the planning process and onto the procurement stage with the Council, then being in a position to decide to construct the building or not in April 2026. Any construction is estimated to take in excess of 12 months. The current estimated cost is 2.9 million, with officers investigating potential partners to help grant fund the project. Chairman, the Cabinet is asked to note this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. That is extremely helpful. May I have a seconder, please, for the report? Councillor Miss Hoy, thank you. Any comments or questions? No, the report stands for itself. Very clear indeed. Thank you, Councillor Seaton. We're being asked to note this report. Those in favour of noting it, please show. And that's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 11 is the draft 6-month Cabinet Forward Plan, which is to be found on pages 237 to 238. Are there any questions or comments on that? None. That's noted for information. And there were, under agenda item 12, no items deemed urgent. We now move on to agenda item 13, and this item on the agenda is a confidential report on port operations. Members will note that it's been proposed that this report is exempt from publication in accordance with paragraphs 3 and 5 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. And this is because it contains commercially sensitive information relating to FDC and third parties. The report also references legal advice, which is subject to legal professional privilege. And for this reason, it's considered in the public interest that the information is maintained as exempt at this time. Is that agreed by members? Do I need a formal proposer and seconder for this, or I should? Someone to propose that we move into exempt session, Councillor Mrs. Laws, and a seconder, Councillor Mr. Tierney. Thank you very much indeed. So if that's agreed, as the whole report is exempt, member services, would you please end the link to YouTube?